So you think you've got the perfect prospect in front of you, but the deals are not converting. You think you're unlucky, you're getting down on yourself. I can tell you there are 6 things that you're probably not considering that are killing your deals, and I'm gonna break those down for you today. Hi guys, Ed Badawi here from Sales Inc. It's been a while since I've done a video, probably a couple of months. December and January are a really busy time for us because we continue to campaign for our clients. So please excuse me, we're back now. And in this video, I want to break down the 6 factors that I find kill a deal from progressing, especially in the world of business to business. Now, you might not be experiencing all of these factors, and that's fine, but I can guarantee you there's at least 2 or 3 of these that are stopping you from turning those really warm, qualified leads into a paying customer. So let's get into it. Number 1, I find that just because you've got a really qualified lead, they tick all the boxes, they're in this industry, you're speaking to this person, they suffer from this problem. I find that typically the first presentation is where people mess up, that first interaction. Typically, a lot of people will come in and say, this is who we are and this is what we can do for you. What do you think? You know, can we get you on board as a client? Or they'll come in and they'll say, let me give you this demo and let me demonstrate to you how wonderful our technology is. It's like, that's not what you need to do in the first meeting. Guys, the first meeting is where you take the time to share a little bit about your story. So first and foremost, who you are, what the inspiration behind this idea is that you're putting forward, the problem it solves, and how that problem is going to make that person's life easier, potentially. Don't assume. You should keep that to, I would say 10 minutes, okay? And what you're doing is disarming that prospect. Then you're coming back to them and then you're seeing if they can relate to that problem and you're seeing if they can open up. That's the first thing you need to do. Give them an opportunity to open up. Make sure that it's, even if it's a 30-minute meeting, that it's 15 minutes each way, they're opening up. Now, what that does is it sets up the second meeting. This brings me to point number 2, guys. The second meeting should be, I told you about who we are, you told me about your problems. Now let me give you a game plan. Let me give you a way forward that is more specific to you and your problem. Now you're actually conducting a solution sell. So that second presentation really needs to be about them, what you're doing for them, and how you're going to do it, how you're going to implement it, what it's going to look like for them. And you should have actually gotten all the critical information from your first meeting. I typically find that because you're not having that first meeting in a very kind of customer-centric way where you're just introducing yourself, because you're jumping straight into your product and your services, you can't have the second meeting. Typically, people are just jumping straight into products and services, and then they're sending an invoice. And deals just don't move. Deals just don't convert. You're not looking at it through the lens of the individual that you're trying to help. So that's the second thing. The third thing, in my experience, that kills the deal conversion and that ability to unlock return on investment is, now what are you doing before, in between, and after those meetings? You need to be constantly reiterating your narrative. So maybe before the meeting, you want to send an email and say, hey, I'm looking forward to meeting you. This is a little bit more about who I am and how I help and where I've come from. Maybe the second email that you're sending after the first meeting is, hey, John, hey, Tracy, it was great talking to you. Thanks so much for giving me an insight into where you're at and for allowing me to express my story with you. I look forward to catching up with you next week, and I hope to come back to you with A, B, C, D, E, F, G based on what you've told me. Now, what you're then doing is breaking up your sales process, making it more digestible, but including another touch point. And then maybe after the second meeting, you want to consolidate what you've covered. And now maybe you want to be putting numbers into play. But my point is, there is not enough communication before, in between, and after these presentations. Slow down, guys. Make your sales process digestible. It's not a one shot, one kill game. And quite frankly, sometimes when I do see people have success in the one shot, one kill game, it's the worst thing that can ever happen to them because they abandon process and they think that everything's going to be one shot, one kill. And you have early success and then it's demoralizing down the track. Now, the fourth thing that I see kill a deal is actually the culture of a business and how they're handling things operationally. So let's say you've had a wonderful, fantastic, awesome, great meeting. Are you able to work internally with your business, with your organization, with the stakeholders and with the team members within that business to actually onboard that client effectively? Operationally, is everybody on board? I see a lot of deals die when it comes to actually now conceptualizing the onboarding, conceptualizing how you're going to help and service that client, move from one solution to another solution. How are you helping managing their mindset? So a lot of the time, I see people sit there and say, you know what? I like your solution. I do have the problem that you're solving. I believe in what you're doing. But in all honesty, it's just too hard. And that's because operationally and culturally, your team is not creating the sense of, they're not creating the peace of mind that is required to have that person say, I'm in good hands. So again, guys, is your team operationally aligned? Is everybody on board? And are you making that clear that the onboarding process is going to be totally seamless? Are you giving your prospect enough confidence that even though they love what you're doing, even though you truly are solving their problem, that they can sit there and say, you know what? I'm in. So that's number 4. Let's move to number 5. The fifth one is pretty cliche. A lot of the time you have a wonderful product and you have a wonderful solution, but it doesn't actually solve the problem that the customer has. It doesn't actually address where they are emotionally and technically. So essentially this is product market fit. The product market fit just isn't quite there. I see this a lot with new SaaS companies that are well funded. I see this a lot with businesses that, have raised capital from investors and now they're going out and they're like, we've solved this problem. But it's like, the market doesn't really care that you're solving that problem. I'll give you an example. So sometimes you solve a problem and the problem is that that business is not as efficient as they should be. We're going to make them efficient. Okay? So we've built this technology. It's going to make you hyper efficient and it's going to have all these benefits. But maybe where the economy is or maybe where the client is within their business cycle, they couldn't give a shit about efficiency. Okay? They couldn't give a damn. Why? Because efficiency doesn't mean anything when you don't have fat, when you don't have growth. So the market might be in a position where all they want to do is experience growth. Or alternatively, you might be selling a growth tool, but the market's not concerned about growth right now. They're concerned about compliance because new regulations have passed, or there's new standards, or there's new layers of red tape that have been introduced into a particular industry. And frankly, growth is the last thing that they care about, right? So quite often, doesn't matter how good your idea is or how good your stack is, do you have a product market fit? And a lot of people are not testing that. You've got to stay agile, you've got to pivot accordingly. And I find that this is quite often a big killer of deals. Your idea might be great, but the market might not be ready. And guys, that brings me to my final point. Sometimes the buyer just isn't ready, okay? The amount of times where I've unlocked a great opportunity, or my team, I should say, has unlocked a great opportunity for our client, they tick all the boxes. It's the right person. They have this problem. They have this issue. We're solving it. They love what we're doing. We've had this wonderful cadence with them. We're in such great rapport with them. Your emotions are high, but they still have 18 months left on that other contract, right? Or, you know what? The board is going through a restructure. Or, you know what? Half the sales team's just been made redundant and we actually have cash flow issues, and now we need to resolve those issues before I can part with money, and bring you on board. Guys, the bottom line is you just don't know. You just don't know what it's going to be. You know, a volcano can go off in Southeast Asia, and next thing you know, the airline business that you were going to do a deal with is having revenue issues because they're not flying as many customers across the Pacific as you might have thought. So now they've got a different problem that they need to solve, and they'll get back to you in 6 months. The bottom line is these are things that you need to be emotionally prepared for. And for that reason, you need to always keep your pipeline building. You need to always keep an open mind. You always need to be in a stable position emotionally. The deals that quite often look like they're going to give you the best return on investment are the ones that get your hopes up the highest. We all know what happens when you get your hopes up. You can get let down. So guys, stay in the moment. Keep building your pipelines. Make sure that you're doing every single little thing that you can do to ensure that you're maximizing your chances of success. And remember, just because you're doing that, it doesn't mean that people want what you're buying. And just because people don't want what you're buying, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means that you need to listen, you need to pivot, you need to stay mentally strong, you need to stay emotionally strong, and you need to stay in the game, you need to stay in the fight, and you need to keep listening to that market, keep doing all the little things, guys. I cannot reiterate that enough. And if you are looking to learn a little bit more about structure and process, again, make sure you follow us, give us a like if you've enjoyed this video, and we're going to keep delving deeper into the weeds of what it means to have a world-class go-to-market strategy and what it means to be a world-class sales professional. Thanks.